Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a 1990 film. It's directed by Steve Barron, and the plot of this movie is that we see that the crime is at an all-time high in New York. And if New York is saying that, you know it's gotta be pretty damn bad.
Our family grows. The city itself will be our playground to use as we please.
And the city is almost desperate for someone, just anyone, to step up and help them. Just then, these turtles start appearing and start stopping crime in the city until these turtles find out that this guy Shredder is behind all of this, rounding up these kids to be a part of his gang. And clearly the turtles have to stop him. Now, what I think of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is I really enjoy this movie.
Excellent!
First, where do I start? How about I start with the turtles themselves? You have Leonardo, Donatello, Raphael, and Michelangelo. You can tell who they are, not just because of the different color headbands, but they all have different personalities. Like Leonardo was sort of the leader of the group, and he makes all the tough decisions. Donatello's probably the smartest one. Michelangelo's probably the goofiest one out of them all. He loves pizza. Well, actually they all love pizza, but I guess Michelangelo loves it just a little bit more. And that brings me to Raphael. Raphael is gotta be the most interesting out of them all. He's a loner. He goes out at night by himself just to sort of get away from the group. And I love those scenes of Raphael just walking in the streets of New York with a trench coat and a hat. It's really funny, actually, that no one really recognizes that he's not a human and that's his only disguise.
What the heck was that?
Looked like sort of a big turtle in a trench coat.
But it's cool because that's one of the times where Raphael runs into Casey Jones. Casey Jones is a human character, like a vigilante of sorts, wears a hockey mask and a hockey stick, and he goes out and stops some crime. He does what he can, and I gotta say Casey Jones, at least out of the human characters, is my favorite.
We've been looking for you, Miss O'Neill.
But of course, you have April O'Neil, who's a reporter, and she's constantly doing reports on how horrible the crime is. And I like when she starts to discover of the Foot Clan and she wants to get more involved. She wants to be proactive and figure it out herself, even if her boss doesn't care about the story. And she runs into contact with the Turtles, which her reaction to first seeing them in Splinter is hilarious. And then you have the villain, Shredder, almost a larger-than-life type of villain because he wears that mask, he has that deep, commanding voice, he's a little scary because you don't know that much about him, and the fact that he's rounding up all these kids in the city who feel deserted and lost, and he feeds them all this rhetoric that they're now loved in this group, and it's pretty intense to see him do that with these kids and make them a part of his gang. And even though I appreciate the darker stuff in here and the fact that this movie is the most serious out of the Turtle films, I do like the humor too. I like that they were able to balance out the seriousness and the humor, because the Turtles, when they make jokes, when they crack one-liners, it's genuinely pretty damn fun.
Yeah! I love being a turtle!
And that's some of the stuff that makes me love this film. It's just because it's so fun to watch. It's so entertaining. It's so enjoyable. Not just because I have grown up with this movie, so I have seen it so many times, it's not even funny, but even rewatching it now, I can still say that, yeah, this movie is pretty damn good. My only complaint, which honestly it's not really a complaint, it's just sort of something that I think is silly whenever I see it, when you find out Splinter's backstory and the fact that he was a little rat who his master was his martial artist and he would copy his moves while in the cage, and then when Shredder, younger Shredder, came in to kill his master, that when he went to attack Shredder, Shredder just like cuts his ear off. Of like, okay, that's really goofy. And I never really found this as a problem myself, but I've heard people complain about it, so I guess it makes me think about it a little bit more. Towards the end, when you see the Turtles fight Shredder, and Shredder is just beating the hell out of them, it just seems like there's no way these Turtles can beat Shredder. And that's good because it makes Shredder look like a viable villain and threat. But when it comes down to resolving Shredder and stopping him, the Turtles don't do it. It's actually Splinter and Casey Jones, and that kind of makes you go like, oh, so the title heroes of the movie don't even solve the main problem or end up being the heroes at the end. I can see that problem, but ultimately it doesn't really bother me. I still think they kick major ass throughout the whole film. And another thing I find hilarious about not just this movie, but whenever I watch movies from like the 80s and 90s, like the soundtrack, when you hear the type of rap songs that go along with the movie, you can tell it's so from that era, an era that I personally love and I just can't get enough of. So rewatching it, yeah, it definitely brings me back to those times, to those feelings of being a kid. And that's just some of the reasons why I really love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. So guys, let me know in the comments below what you think of this film. As always, like and subscribe. Cowabunga!